Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. We ended last time in talk 520. The question had been raised by the seeker saying, owing to my ignorance, I do not realize the absolute existence consciousness. And Sri Bhagavan had responded, who is the I? Whose is the ignorance? Answers to these questions will alone suffice to prove that you are already realized. Is there anyone who denies his own existence? Or can anyone say that he did not exist in his sleep? Pure existence is thus admitted. The admission also implies consciousness. Thus all men are realized. There is no ignorant man at all. The self is existence. The self is consciousness. Existence and consciousness are one and the same. You should inquire to know the nature of the I, so that you realize that all that you are is that existence consciousness, which is absolute. Doubts that are otherwise are merely the imaginings of ignorance. The disciple then said, yes, I understand, but I have a small question to ask. The state of realization is one of desireless-ness. If a human being is desireless, he ceases to be human. Sri Bhagavan replied, you admit your existence in sleep. You did not function then. You were not aware of any gross body. You did not limit yourself to this body, so you could not find anything separate from yourself. Now, in your waking state, you continue to be the same existence with the limitations of the body added. These limitations make you see other objects, hence arises desire. But the state of desirelessness in sleep made you no less happy than now. You did not feel any want. You did not make yourself miserable by not entertaining desires. But now you entertain desires because you are limited to this human frame. Why do you wish to retain these limitations and continue to entertain desires? Sri Bhagavan began the instruction saying, you admit your existence in sleep. What is that existence in sleep? It is bodiless, without the senses, without the thoughts of the mind, without any object to be thought of as this is I or this is mine. You admit your existence in sleep. You did not function then. There was neither activity of the body, nor the senses, nor the prana, nor the mind, or the thought. He said, you were not aware of any gross body. You did not limit yourself to this body. If only you realize your bodiless nature, the self will shine clearly, for itself, to itself. That is yourself. And there will be happiness without end, just as being or existence is without end. So you could not find anything separate from yourself. There is no misidentification while in deep sleep. Without misidentification, there was no object apart from you. The existence that still exists now, as well as in deep sleep, is unlimited. So there cannot be anything other than it to desire. Now in your waking state, you continue to be the same existence with the limitations of the body added. Existence plus the body, or bodily limitations, is the waking state. If the limitations, or that is the misidentifications, are removed, what remains of the waking state? Just the same illimitable, immeasurable existence. These limitations, that is, misidentification with the body, these limitations make you see other objects. Hence arises desire. Desire is always for something. Existence, however, is not a thing. If you conceive of objects, there is something to desire. If you do not conceive of objects at all, including the body, which is another object, how will desire arise? But with limitations, then follow the desires. But the state of desireless-ness in sleep made you no less happy than now. You did not feel any want. There was neither the object to desire, nor the fulfillment of desire, nor the form of desire as it appears in the mind. Yet you were completely happy, without anything else whatsoever. You did not feel any want. Being is perfectly full. It has no need. It has no desire. You did not feel any want. You did not make yourself miserable by not entertaining desires. Indeed, desireless-ness is 100% contrariwise. Without desire, happiness is unobscured. But now you entertain desires because you are limited to this human frame, the body and the mind, the conception of objects. What has any of that got to do with your existence? Now you entertain desires because you are limited to this human frame, an embodied ego entity. How do you construct such limitation? It is only the workings of illusion, imagination mistaken to be real. Why do you wish to retain these limitations and continue to entertain the desires? Thus, the very basic assumptions that was giving rise to the doubt in the disciple's question are eliminated. Why do you wish to retain these limitations of being a desireless body and continue to entertain desires? Sri Bhagavan continued, does the body tell you that it is there? It is certainly something apart from the body that remains aware. What is it? Do you say that it is the I, meaning the ego, which arises simultaneously with the waking of the individual from sleep? Be it so. The body is not sentient. The Absolute does not speak. The ego does. One does not aspire for liberation in sleep. The aspiration arises only in the waking state. The functions of the waking state are those of the ego, which is synonymous with the I. Find out who this I is. On doing so, and abiding as I, all these doubts will be cleared up. The body is not sentient. It has no light or knowing power of its own. Who knows? The body does not know. Who is it that knows? The Absolute does not speak. The eternal silent Brahman has no desires. The Absolute does not speak. The ego does. One does not aspire for liberation in sleep. One does not aspire to anything else also in sleep. In sleep there is existence, just as it is, without the coverings of ideas and desires. The aspiration arises only in the waking state. The functions of the waking state are those of the ego, which is synonymous with the I. Find out who this I is. Is the I the individual? Or is individuality something superimposed upon the I? The nature of the I being unformed existence. That its absolute is indicative of its ever unchanging nature. Find out who this I is. On doing so and abiding as I, all these doubts will be cleared up. Inquiry into the nature of I results in the egoless liberation. So abidance as I, what is it but self-knowledge? Abidance cannot be indicative of any activity, gross or subtle, sensed or thinking. Abiding refers to being or existence, which always is just as it is without any deviation. By such self-knowledge, doubts will be cleared up. The confusion regarding your existence will be gone. And you will be desireless, fearless, with nothing to be gained or lost. Free indeed. The 28th of September, 1938. Talk 521. Some congressmen handed over the following questions to Maharshi. 1. How long is India destined to suffer bondage? 2. Have not the sons of India made enough sacrifice for her liberation? 3. Will India get freedom during Mahatma Gandhi's lifetime? The above questions were not answered categorically. Sri Bhagavan simply remarked, Gandhiji has surrendered himself to the divine and works accordingly with no self-interest. He does not concern himself with the results, but accepts them as they turn up. That must be the attitude of national workers. They raised a question. Will the work be crowned with success? Sri Bhagavan replied, this question arises because the questioner has not surrendered himself. The questioner said, should we not then think of and work for the welfare of the country? Sri Bhagavan replied, first take care of yourself and the rest will naturally follow. The questioner said, I am not speaking individually, but for the country. Sri Bhagavan replied, first surrender and see. The doubts arise because of the absence of surrender. Acquire strength by surrender, and then your surroundings will be found to have improved to the degree of strength acquired by you. The questioner said, should we not know if our actions will be worthwhile? Sri Bhagavan replied, follow the example of Gandhiji in the work for the national cause. Surrender is the word. To what does one surrender? Not to the objects around one, not to circumstances. Surrender is always to God. Does God have need of a world? How does God see the world? If you truly surrender, you see as God sees. If you see as God sees, then how the world is viewed will change accordingly. How does God see? What is the scene for God? The following slip was also handed over to Sri Bhagavan, which read, 4 of us have come from Coorg, and we had gone to Delhi to wait as a deputation on the working committee of the Indian National Congress, and we are now going back. We were sent from the Coorg Congress Committee, and so kindly give us a message to the Coorg District Congress Committee and the people of Coorg in general. When this slip was handed over, Sri Bhagavan said that the same answer holds good here too. The message is contained in the word surrender. September 29th, 1938. A visitor asked Sri Bhagavan, "I want knowledge." Sri Bhagavan replied, "Who wants knowledge?" The disciple said, "I want it." Sri Bhagavan replied, "Who is that I? Find the I and see later what further knowledge is required." Do you want knowledge? The wanting of knowledge may be good, but you should come to know what knowledge is, and who is it, and whose it is. Who wants knowledge? I want it. Who is that I? find the I, and see later what further knowledge is required. The I is the nature of all. Knowing I, the self, all is known. That being realized, could there remain any desires? October 2nd, 1938. A pilgrim special train brought several visitors from Bengal. One of them said that he had read Mr. Paul Brunton's book, and since then he was anxious to see Sri Bhagavan. He also asked, "How shall I overcome my passions?" Sri Bhagavan replied, "Find their root, and then it will be easy." Later he said, "What are the passions? Kama, lust, krodha, anger, etc. Why do they arise? Because of likes and dislikes towards the objects seen. How do the objects project themselves in your view? Because of your avidya, that is, ignorance. Ignorance of what? Of the self. Thus, if you find the self and abide therein, there will be no trouble owing to the passions." Later he continued, "Again, what is the cause of the passions? Desire to be happy or enjoy pleasure. Why does the desire for happiness arise? Because your nature is happiness itself, and it is natural that you come into your own. This happiness is not found anywhere besides the self. Do not look for it elsewhere, but seek the self and abide therein." Still again, that happiness which is natural is simply rediscovered, so it cannot be lost, whereas the happiness arising from other objects is external and thus liable to be lost. Therefore, it cannot be permanent, and so it is not worth seeking. Moreover, craving for pleasures should not be encouraged. One cannot put out burning fire by pouring petrol over it. An attempt to satisfy your craving for the time being, so that the passion may later be suppressed, is simply foolish. There are no doubt other methods for the suppression of passion. They are 1. Regulated food, 2. Fasting, 3. Yoga practice, 4. Medicines, but their effects are transitory. The passions reappear with greater force as soon as the check is removed. The only way to overcome them is to eradicate them. That is done by finding their source, as stated above. The question that prompted the dialogue was, how shall I overcome my passions? And Sri Bhagavan commenced his instruction saying, find their root and then it will be easy. Find the root, find the starting place. What is the root of passion or desire? The objects come later, the desire is previous. What is the root? What are the passions? Lust, anger, etc. Why do they arise? They are not natural to you. Why do they arise? Look at the root, look at the cause. See how ignorance is constructed. What is assumed? What is supposed? Because of likes and dislikes towards the object seen, the passions are always in relation to some object. Can be subtle, can be gross, but something objective. The likes and dislikes regarding the objects form the passion. How do the objects project themselves in your view? The experiencing of objects are according to the viewer. How do the objects project themselves? Because of your avidya, ignorance. The belief that objects shape your identity, shape reality, shape your happiness. All that is a product of ignorance. Ignorance of what? Of the self. If you find the self and abide therein, there will be no trouble owing to the passions. Because if you abide as the self, there is neither a subject nor objects, neither an I nor this world. Just one blissful existence. Again, what is the cause of the passions? Desire to be happy or enjoy pleasure. Why does the desire for happiness arise? You see it manifest. Why is it? You have the desire to be happy, completely and always so. Why? He says, because your nature is happiness itself, and it is natural that you come into your own. It is not natural to misidentify. To be unhappy is certainly not natural. Happiness is your very existence. The existence is the happiness. This happiness is not found anywhere besides the self. Do not look for it elsewhere, but seek the self and abide therein. Again, abidance signifies self-knowledge. And in self-knowledge, there is no unhappiness, nor is there any form of object. Still again, that happiness which is natural is simply rediscovered, so it cannot be lost. If it were something produced or attained anew, it would come and go. Everything's like that. But that which is natural, the innate, that is the self. In self-realization or self-knowledge, you simply rediscover it. Something that was always there and actually always known. Yet, in the darkness of ignorance, it seems like these were missing. What is gained will be lost. What is not gained will not be lost. The self is not gained anew, and happiness is of the very same nature as the self. Whereas the happiness arising from other objects is external and thus liable to be lost. Therefore, it cannot be permanent, and so it is not worth seeking. What you're seeking is profound knowledge of the self, abidance as Brahman. It is eternal. What is not eternal is not worth seeking. Your nature is eternal. The one who knows that is that. Moreover, craving for pleasures should not be encouraged. One cannot put out burning fire by pouring petrol over it. An attempt to satisfy your craving for the time being, so that the passion may later be suppressed, is simply foolish. This is obvious. There are no doubt other methods for the suppression of passion, and he lists some of them, saying, their effects are transitory. The passions reappear with greater force as soon as the check is removed. The only way to overcome them, that is the passions, is to eradicate them. How is that done? That is done by finding their source, the root, as stated above. So, for the sake of your happiness, always inquire, steadily abide in the knowledge of the self. What Sri Bhagavan has imparted is indeed a very happy thing. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana. Shanti, Shanti.